We are, every one of us, living in a strange world, and an even stranger time at that. We live in a world that seems unique among the rest of its cosmic brethren. A single pale blue dot housing life in an otherwise uninhabitable universe. Of course, this has always been the case, and we only recently conceptualized it. But what about the time in which we live? That is an even more special thing. For, in this day and age, we have the technology and understanding of the universe around us to manipulate that universe like never before. We can go to space, fathom the infinite, come back down and dig miles into the earth before driving back home at the end of a long day in a mechanical machine that moves over twice as fast as the most finely bred horse, to watch silly moving pictures beamed to us at the speed of light, just for our personal amusement, whilst sipping on mass-produced alcoholic beverages so high in quality and purity that their like 2,000 years ago would be reserved for the highest of monarchs and holiest of priests. And it doesn't occur to so many of us how amazing and wondrous this all is, and quite how cheaply we do it. Just 250 years ago, the King of England's son was considerably less likely than a modern child in an impoverished community to reach their 5th birthday. That same king might have spent a significant fraction of his treasury on 7 or 8 pineapples to adorn his banquet hall during 4 or 5 balls and a few dozen special guest dinners, showing the rest of his rivals how awesome and wealthy he is. Which might actually be a concept that some Americans still grasp perfectly fine. And, of course, let us never forget this glorious era being one of chronic illness not being caused by malaria, rampant plague, smallpox, polio, and other such horrific things that we have mostly taken care of to the point of annihilation. So much of this we take for granted, even at the highest levels, that we don't understand how easy and affordable it is for the masses. How, today, it is cheaper than ever before to make one's voice heard, to call out to friends and loved ones, to come up with new ideas and test new philosophies, to lift people up, to write and sing and dance and art, to create and destroy. Through this amazing thing we call the internet, we can absolutely give the world all manner of glorious and helpful things. We can express ourselves in a medium never before imagined, something that the ancients would have compared to telepathy. And this power we have is basically free. It is not just a mere trifle, it is indeed almost free, as the Rush song states. Indeed, most of these things we take for granted, water, food, electricity, waste services, and other such necessities, they could be functionally free to the people, solved through taxation and better management of our bureaucratic system through the resources available in this new technological era. We have, very recently, faced the reality that some politicians, who shall not go named, feel that it could be beneficial to a family to lose a child because of how it could save them money. Of course, that was just by the numbers, but we also believe the Wall Street Journal was the publication that not too long ago suggested that the American people try skipping breakfast to save money. The wealthiest of our society sit fat on the money we give them for overpriced, unhealthy products they have designed in their factories and labs to be as addictive as possible, making it impossible for the common people to afford healthy food, capable health services, and proper education. And they say that we should give up more and keep getting poorer while they get richer. The megacorporations of America tell us to tighten our belts and skip breakfast and dig into non-existent savings, ignoring our needs and troubles while they sit back and hoard their wealth, continuing to make more. This is bread we are talking about. This is food and water. It is as important as air. And for whatever reason, we sit back and idly allow it to be taken away from us, to be monetized and commoditized, to be held over us by those who need it the least. Instead of helping those in need, the food and energy and tech companies that control our very lives are only concerned with using us to make even more money for their already bursting pockets. They think that skipping breakfast is an option for us, when most of us are already doing just that. They think we can afford to tighten our belts, when so few can afford a belt at all. They think that we should just dip into our savings, because they actually have savings, and somehow have convinced themselves that everyone else does, when, because of their profligacy, nobody else does. How many taxpayer dollars go into their pockets that could go to making your society a better place? How many record-breaking fiscal quarters during pandemics and depressions endured by the common people do we have to see before we start to understand that there is no loyalty in money? Only to it. Our government, your taxpayer dollars, subsidize countless mega-farms all over the United States of America every year, and yet our food prices still keep rising. Meanwhile, small farmers struggle along to get representation and help produce new and better food because those same ultra-corporations move in and pressure them out. They lobby the government to protect their private interests in a democracy that by all means was founded by the people, to the people, and for the people. So many nations are proposing universal basic income and an improvement to the standard of living, and yet, here in America, we have politicians trying to take food and money away from the people. But we suggest something on the opposite side. We suggest we are not doing enough. Instead of funding oil companies and private military contractors, partisan evangelical groups, and monoculture corporate megafarms, let us form a nationalized, democratic network of small farmers and food producers to help every food market around the United States of America. Your taxes could go to help your local farmer produce a higher standard of food at an affordable price for everyone instead of going to corporate megafarmers only interested in shoveling every dollar of government aid into their pockets. When you could be making the decisions of how that food is distributed. You could be the one voting for everyone to be fed, watered, sheltered, powered, and kept healthy. Think of the money you could save if those most basic products were seen for what they really are. Necessities. Shelter, food, water, electricity, heat, safety, health services. If you do not get them, you will literally die. Education, capable transportation, communication, ready access to public information. If you do not get them, you will, at most, merely survive. You cannot live without these above things. And the only people that we've ever seen that try to tell the common people that they don't need any of these things are the people who already have these things and always have. The hypocrisy on display is stunning. The rich eating well while telling the poor that they can save money by skipping breakfast. As if to say, well, I don't see any poverty in this modern world, like some sort of 19th century colonialism satire. They project their wastefulness onto us at the bottom rungs of society and then take no responsibility for the problems that they caused. This cannot be allowed. Humanity has shown itself a poor administrator of society's needs. The corruption simply cannot be given up by those who came to power through it. So we must move up with technology to solve this problem. We must change the very way we think about food and water and all of those necessities listed above. And we must decouple them, slowly and one at a time, from the economy at large. We gotta go post-scarcity. And we have to start with those most basic necessities first. Shelter, food, water, electricity, health. We need to, as a nation, sit back and look at exactly where our priorities lie on this hierarchy of needs. Our people are dying. They are dying homeless on the streets from exposure. They are dying in their homes from starvation and cold. They are dying in prisons from corporate greed and mismanagement. They are dying everywhere from preventable diseases because of conspiracy and science denial. They are dying abroad because we are involved in conflicts we did not need to get involved in. Our nation has spent so much of your money on neglecting you. They've gone out of their way to put your needs last. Just look at your cost of living versus your pay per hour. Just look at how you are treated by your bosses and landlords. Just look at how separated we all are from each other. How eager we are to hate one another while the wealthiest elites of our society seem content getting no closer at a consensus while pulling in even more money. How would their companies fare if we all stopped going to work even for just a single day? We could survive that one day, but those corporations would lose billions overnight, and they'd get the message. You can lose millions of dollars in strict profit over the course of the next fiscal year and only take a few million as your New Year's bonus instead of over 100 million like we're sure you're used to. Or you can lose billions right now because nobody will work for somebody who doesn't care if they live or die. This does not need to be violent. It doesn't need to be extreme. The people of America could simply decide that they have better things to do with one Wednesday morning than go to work for somebody who holds so much contempt for their own employees that they don't care if their employees can even keep the lights on. They could do it all together all over the United States of America, and suddenly no company has employees, and people just don't want to work would not be an excuse they could make, because 100 million people just decided, I want better pay and conditions. If I don't get them, see how long your company lasts. Don't worry, I'll come in tomorrow. We all will. But you now know the sort of movement you're dealing with. This has been done in other cultures before. It could be done in ours. And it should be what we decide to do together as a nation. Because this is a matter of life and death. This is a matter of getting enough food and water to not be hungry or thirsty. It's about staying warm in the cold snap and cool in the heat wave. This is not only about us, but our children. And if conditions are right to have them, this is about staying alive. And here, in the United States of America, we should have gotten those things figured out a long time ago, now shouldn't we? So let's do it. We have the largest military in the world, and we spend more on it than any other nation does on theirs. There once was a time when the military was used to serve American communities at home. They dug canals, built dams, transported materials, lent their expertise to civilians, and otherwise maintained the nation right here, where they're needed the most. No longer should we have a military concerned with Wilsonian interventionism, an invention of our worst president, which is now a century out of date, in intervening with the problems of other nations strictly because we must assert ourselves as some nebulous shining city on a hill. Not when we have so many problems within our own borders. Now, more than ever, we need them here at home. We need the strong, proud, brave, and ready to be on our shores, bolstering confidence in their capabilities instead of dying off in some faraway land, forgotten by those at home who don't have the perspective to value their sacrifice. It's time the Army Corps of Engineers be a name everyone knows and respects again. It's time that we use our amazing military power and resources to prop our own nation up instead of others. It's time we do exactly what we've been trying to do abroad for 50 years here, on American soil. To help build infrastructure, to rescue people from environmental disasters, to help feed our people and power our cities, to drag us out of our position as the world's military pariah and political laughingstock, and show the rest of our peers that the United States of America is still the greatest nation in the world, and shall rise above its challenges to be greater than it's ever been. We need to show not only our people at home, but the world at large that our military is one to be respected and trusted once again. Our military can only take again that lofty position in the public eye by doing good by its own people. We will be able to say to the other nations of the world, look at what our military has done for us. Look at how fantastic it has made our nation at home within our borders. Look at how well all of our people eat, how united they are, how well developed our infrastructure is, how safe and comfortable our society has become, because we understand that we had the largest and most well-moneyed source of development in the world. Our army is feared and respected, not only because it brings death to our enemies, but because it brings life to our people. We could do the same for you. But that invitation is one we are no longer able to give in good conscience, for we have neglected our people. And in order to get our military back on track, we must dedicate it inward. We must bring our soldiers home to protect our sovereignty instead of spreading them thin across the globe, to focus on America first, and on rebuilding our nation for those who need it here, in our borders. And the first part of rebuilding is ensuring the food, shelter, electricity, water, and health of our people. The military can do it. They're well-funded and up to the task, and we could save so much more of our military funding for our own benefits if we didn't have to transport troops, weapons, vehicles, fuel, and defensive technologies all over the world to maintain our expeditionary forces. The Army Corps of Engineers has already built industrial structures, power stations, solar grids, dams, dikes, windmills, roads, rail networks, houses, and all manner of other installations for numerous other nations all over the world for nearly 100 years. They are our force to provide services in peace and war, to strengthen national security, energize the economy, and reduce risks from disasters. They could be doing that here and now, at home, to enrich our nation once again. Those are your taxpayers' dollars that could be going back into maintaining and improving your neighborhoods, your farms, your schools, your power plants, your homes. So what are you waiting for? Send a message to your local representative today and demand that they take steps to make our nation better for everyone in it, not just the top. For we are all in this with each other. The problems of today affect everyone forever. Call for the government to step up in doing their job to serve the people. And call for the people of our fair nation who are already serving to come back home and trade in their swords for plowshares. We will bring our best and brightest home to defend our borders against all potential threats to our freedom and democracy. We will bolster our economy and infrastructure, keeping our soldiers safe alongside our civilians, and bringing the well-earned respect back to our military that has been lost in these most recent years. The slate of our diplomatic reputation will be wiped clean, and we will start anew, rising again on the world stage, rejuvenated and dedicated to securing our position as the best nation in the world. Stand strong, stand together. Vote Bull Moose. Vote progressive.